Marcus Chen pressed his face against the cool airplane window, watching his 7-year-old daughter Emma sleep peacefully in the seat beside him. Her tiny hand clutched the worn stuffed elephant he'd bought her 3 years ago when Mommy went to heaven. The pink nail polish she'd insisted on painting during their weekend together was already chipped, but she wore it like a badge of honor. In 12 hours, he'd have to put her on another plane back to her grandmother in Seattle, and the familiar ache of separation already gnawed at his chest. Row 17E had become his second home over the past 2 years, the aisle seat that gave him just enough room to help Emma with her coloring books and juice boxes during their monthly visits. He was just another divorced dad navigating the complicated geography of shared custody, counting down precious hours like a man watching sand slip through an hourglass. "Daddy, look," Emma had whispered earlier, pointing to the clouds below. "They look like cotton candy. Save some room for real cotton candy when we land," he'd promised, knowing their weekend ritual of hitting the Santa Monica Pier was just hours away. Now she dozed against his shoulder while he mentally calculated their remaining time together. 2 days, 48 hours, then back to his empty apartment in Burbank, where he'd count the weeks until their next court-approved reunion. The plane jolted suddenly, pulling Marcus from his thoughts. Around him, passengers stirred uneasily as the aircraft shuddered again, this time more violently. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom, but it wasn't the usual smooth reassurance about turbulence. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Rodriguez. We're experiencing a medical emergency in the cockpit. My co-pilot has become unconscious, and I need immediate assistance." A collective gasp rippled through the cabin. Marcus felt Emma stir beside him, her eyes fluttering open with confusion. "What's happening, Daddy?" "Just some bumps, sweetheart," he said softly, but his trained ear caught the barely controlled panic in the captain's voice. The intercom crackled again, and this time Captain Rodriguez's voice carried raw desperation. "Is there anyone on board with military flight experience? Any fighter pilot or former military aviator? Please identify yourself to the flight crew immediately. This is not a drill." The cabin erupted in nervous chatter. Marcus felt his blood run cold. He closed his eyes and saw flashes of another life. F-18 Hornets screaming off carrier decks, the rush of G-forces pressing him into his seat, the weight of responsibility for million-dollar aircraft and the lives depending on him. That was 15 years ago, before Emma, before marriage, before everything changed. "Sir." A flight attendant appeared beside him, her face pale. "The captain needs to know if anyone has flight experience. Any at all." Marcus looked down at Emma, who was now fully awake and watching him with those trusting brown eyes that mirrored her mother's. His hands trembled slightly as he considered the magnitude of what was happening 35,000 feet above the Pacific Ocean. He started, then stopped. The old Marcus Chen, Lieutenant Commander Chen, would have sprung into action without hesitation. But that was before he became the most important thing in his daughter's world. Before he became the only parent she had left. "Daddy, why does everyone look scared?" Emma asked, clutching her elephant tighter. Another violent shudder rocked the plane. Oxygen masks deployed with a mechanical whoosh, and somewhere behind them, a woman began crying. Marcus felt the aircraft's nose dip slightly, a sensation he recognized with crystalline clarity from years of training. The flight attendant looked at him desperately. "Sir, please, if you know anything about flying." Marcus closed his eyes and made a decision that felt like stepping off a cliff. "Tell Captain Rodriguez that Lieutenant Commander Marcus Chen, U.S. Navy, retired, is in seat 17E. The next few minutes blurred together. Emergency protocols kicked in as Marcus was escorted to the cockpit, leaving Emma in the care of a kind elderly woman who'd promised to read her stories. The cockpit was chaos. Warning lights flashing, alarms beeping, and Captain Rodriguez looking 10 years older than when they'd taken off. "Thank God," Rodriguez breathed when Marcus appeared. "My co-pilot collapsed 20 minutes ago. Heart attack, I think. I can fly this bird, but I can't handle navigation, communications, and emergency procedures alone. We need to divert to LAX immediately." Marcus slipped into the co-pilot's seat, muscle memory flooding back as his hands found familiar controls. It was like riding a bicycle, if that bicycle was traveling at 550 miles per hour with 247 lives depending on your recollection of procedures you hadn't used in over a decade. "What's our situation?" Marcus asked. falling into the rhythm of military communication. Fuel's good for another 90 minutes. Weather at LAX is clear. But I need someone who understands instrument approaches and can handle radio communications while I focus on flying. For the next hour, Marcus became someone he thought he'd left behind. His hands moved across controls with practiced precision, coordinating with air traffic control, calculating approach angles, monitoring engine parameters. The worried father in 17E disappeared, replaced by the naval aviator who'd once landed jets on aircraft carriers in rough seas. But Emma was never far from his thoughts. Tower, Southwest 1447 requesting priority landing, runway 24 right, Marcus transmitted, his voice steady despite his racing heart. Southwest 1447, you're cleared for immediate approach. Emergency vehicles are standing by. As they descended through the clouds, Marcus caught sight of Los Angeles sprawling below, the same city where he'd planned to take Emma to her favorite restaurant, where they'd feed ducks at the park and she'd convince him to let her stay up past bedtime to watch movies. The landing was textbook perfect. As the wheels touched down and the engines reversed, Marcus felt a wave of relief so powerful it nearly brought tears to his eyes. Around them, passengers erupted in applause. "Ladies and gentlemen," Captain Rodriguez announced, his voice thick with emotion, "we've landed safely thanks to a passenger who stepped up when we needed him most." Sometimes heroes are exactly where you need them to be. Marcus didn't feel like a hero as he made his way back to 17E, where Emma waited with her arms outstretched. "Daddy, the nice lady said you helped fly the airplane." He scooped her up, holding her tight against his chest, breathing in the familiar scent of her strawberry shampoo. "Just helped a little, sweetheart. Like Superman." Marcus laughed, really laughed, for the first time in weeks. "No, baby, just like your daddy." As they waited to deplane, passengers approached him with thanks, with handshakes, with tears in their eyes. But all Marcus could focus on was Emma's small hand in his, and the realization that heroism wasn't about the size of your actions, it was about showing up when people needed you most. The elderly woman who'd watched Emma approached them. "Your daughter told me you were the bravest daddy in the world," she said quietly. Looks like she was right. Later that evening, as they shared cotton candy on the Santa Monica Pier and Emma recounted their adventure to anyone who'd listen, Marcus got a call from his ex-mother-in-law. "I saw the news," she said, her voice softer than usual. "Emma told me what happened. Maybe she should stay with you a little longer this time." Marcus looked at his daughter, her face sticky with cotton candy, her eyes bright with excitement as she described their adventure in the sky to a group of fascinated children. Sometimes being a hero meant landing planes. Sometimes it meant showing up every month in seat 17E, no matter how much it hurt to say goodbye. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, it meant getting a second chance to hold on to what mattered most. Row 17E would always be special now, not just as the seat of a weekend dad, but as the place where he remembered who he really was, someone who steps up when people need him most. Whether that's in a cockpit at 35,000 feet or in the everyday heroism of loving a little girl who thinks her daddy can do anything. Because maybe, just maybe, she's right.